What is up, my polar bears? It is Arthur here with a new series called Arthur Reviews, where I review books while drawing fan art to them because I do believe there are amazing fantasy books and amazing books in general out there that have really small fandoms and deserve some more love and can be not only interesting reads but also deserve some fan art. So I'm gonna start with a pretty popular series, with the first book of a pretty popular series. We're starting with the first book of the Percy Jackson series, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, and I have chosen to start with this book because I grew up watching the movie. It was an amazing movie when you don't know anything about the books. When you do know things about the books, it is not such a good movie anymore. But I grew up on the movie, and my best friend who grew up reading the books. Absolutely loves the books and just kept on telling me to read it, to the point that he decided he was just gonna read them to me over a phone call. So we read the first book, and I just realized what a great series this was, and how, yeah, the movie's kind of trash compared to the book. But we're not here to talk about that movie, we're here to talk about that book. So, let's start with a summary of the book. There is Percy Jackson, who is 12 years old, and he has trouble staying at the same school. He constantly gets kicked out for one thing or another. During a school field trip, his other teacher turns into a monster. His other teacher hands him a sword, and he is tasked to kill them. This is when Percy finds out he is a demigod. He goes to camp half. He is traveling to Camp Half Blood when his mother and his best friend Grover, who's going with him, are attacked by a centaur. Not a centaur, a minotaur, I'm sorry. And, his mother's taken. We find more about this later, and he wakes up inside the camp. They give him something to help him heal him up, and then is given a tour around camp. This is where he finds out that Grover is actually a satyr, so he has goat legs. He finds out that his old teacher, the one that helped him by giving him the sword, which is named Riptide, is actually a centaur, and he meets another important character to the storyline, Annabeth, who is the daughter of Athena. So, Percy spends a bit of time at the camp until he is tasked with going on a quest. Because basically, monsters and almost everyone believes that he is the one who stole the lightning bolt from Zeus, and a war's about to start. And war is not such a great thing, so Percy is tasked with going to retrieve the bolt and bring it back to Mount Olympus before the summer solstice to avoid world destruction. Good stuff. So through the quest, he endures a lot of hardships. They're constantly traveling. They end up trapped in the Lotus Cafe. They meet up with Ares. Percy gets into a epic fight with the god Ares and wins, hissing off the god. They, go down to Hades' lair, chat with Hades for a while. Just good stuff. So, let's talk about the characters for a little bit. Our main character, Percy Jackson, is a great character. He is very funny. He is sarcastic. Not overly sarcastic. Sometimes he genuinely just seems like he's a bit confused and just saying what's on his mind, making him a pretty fun narrator. The one thing that was a bit difficult for this video was that Percy is not described that much, and this video is mildly inspired upon Lavender's Town book versus the movie, where she takes the movie and the book and she basically designs it and shows you what the characters should have looked like. And she brings this point up again, which I totally agree with her, that both Grover and Percy are not described as much as Annabeth. So making the character design was a bit hard when, the characters are not described that much. But, Percy is a good time. He's not dumb. but he's also not the smartest kid out there. But that just makes him even more fun. Honestly, Percy's just an enjoyable narrator because he's just genuinely like, oh, oh, oh. He's reacting like a 12-year-old would react in this situation, which makes it kind of fun. Makes it sarcastic comments, getting into a fight with the god of war. Might not be the smartest choice, but, he didn't. I like him as a narrator. And I'll talk more about why I think him being the narrator is amazing for the story. But let's move on to the second character I draw in this video, which is Annabeth. Annabeth, the daughter of Adina, is a great character because she's sort of the brains of the group. She's really smart. She has this really cool invisibility cap that is basically a Yankees cap that she can put on her head and she'll turn invisible. She's smart. And I mean, the first interaction between Percy and her that we have is that she is the leader of their group and capture the flag, and she sends Percy off to an area, and basically he gets into a fight with the daughter of Ares that he had previously pissed off. And, she uses him basically to win the game via strategy. Like, she doesn't actively fight in the game. She's basically the puppet master pulling the strings and putting everything in order so they'll have the biggest chance of winning. And that's really cool. I think it's so cool to have a main character who's a female, who's like the smart one of the team, that she carries her own weight. And generally, she's just great because, her banter with Percy, anytime they talk, is very sarcastic, very making, comments at Percy. She calls him Seaweed Head. And that's just a good time. She is described more, so drawing her, it was a bit easier. She basically looks like your typical California dream girl, tan skin, a blonde beach wave, beautiful stormy green eyes. But she does not have that personality. She's sarcastic, she's no nonsense, she's amazing. I love her, and I'm so happy there's a strong female character in the main group, because that's always a good time. So next we're moving on to another character that goes on a quest, and we're early introduced to them, Grover. Grover is a satyr, and he was tasked with protecting Percy. He was actually at Percy's school and helped Percy get to Camp Half-Blood when he came from his school to Camp Half-Blood. Grover is adorable because he cares about his friends, but he's also kind of nervous. Like, he's passionate about the things he cares about. When he's talking about, animal rights, when they're on the back of the truck and they're with animals for not being treated well, he's talking about how this is unjust, and he's very passionate about the things he cares about. You ask him to talk about Pan and he feels very, very passionate about it, but he's just like this cute not mellow, but this personality that he gets easily overwhelmed. He's scared sometimes, but he still cares, and it's just it just brings this great dynamic to the group, because we have Percy, who's not the smartest, but is very sarcastic and has a big heart. We have Annabeth, who's kind of very logical, very not reserved, but she knows what she's doing and she's very confident upon what she's doing. And then we have Grover, who's like nothing like those two, and it's just very, very easily overwhelmed, very passionate, cares about, will cry if he feels like he did something wrong. So it's just such a cute dynamic, and I love all the personalities that are in the friend group. So overall, what I really, really love about the writing style is the way that it's told from Percy's point of view, and Percy is genuinely reading like a 12-year-old. Because I read books that are told from the point of view of like 12-year-olds that don't sound like 12-year-olds are talking. It sounds like mini grown-ups are talking. And I feel like really, really hammering home the idea that Percy's 12 and providing that just makes it such a good story. It makes it like so relatable because these books are targeted toward middle schoolers. And by focusing on making sure that it sounds like a 12-year-old just telling you the story, it makes it a good story. It's very funny, it's sarcastic. There's points where you facepalm and you're like, God, Percy, if you're like an older person reading this. And that just makes it such an enjoyable book, and I can absolutely see why there's such a big fandom around it and why there's so many kids who grew up reading these books and just relate to them and love the stories because the writing style absolutely is super enjoyable. Like, honestly, that is such a big part of why I love the books because I have moved on to the rest of the series, and as we continue down the series, we start to hear and see Percy's voice growing because of the other adventures he's gone in. He's starting to get older, and the way he views the world changes along with it. He's now no longer the 12-year-old that we begin with, and I like this because the character really is growing up as the readers are growing up, and I think that's a big appeal about it. I think it's amazing, and I'm so happy that the writer decided to keep it as like first person limited, because I feel like if this was like a third person viewpoint and it was an outsider to his Percy's story, it would be a good story still, but it wouldn't be as like enjoyable and personal as having Percy right here, because having Percy being a narrator makes us feel things. It makes us go through the emotions as much as it does, and as Percy's discovering things along his quest and discovering the little secrets about this stolen lightning bolt that are going on, the audience is shocked about it with him, and that just adds so much to the book. I'm gonna deviate a little bit and commentate on the art. At this point, I read that Annabeth had curly hair, and I just thought she had really curly hair, like my curly hair. And then my best friend let me know that no, it was supposed to be more like beach waves, and not everyone in this world had super curly hair. So I went ahead and fixed it for accuracy. I want to make her as accurate as possible. Overall, if you have never read the Percy Jackson series or haven't tried to, I would say give it a try. I've read the first book. I'm currently in the fourth book with my best friend. When I'm 17, I'm no longer kind of target demographic. I'm not in middle school, but it's still a good series, and it's still enjoyable. It's still funny. Plus, they're pretty short books. You know, you don't lose anything by giving the book a try, because it is a pretty good book. It is a cute book, and if anything, you might get a couple of laughs. So I would recommend checking this series out, even if you are a bit older and past the target demographic. If you were not one of the people who were part of the big fandom when you were in middle school, because it's just a good book. Another thing I adore about the book is its usage of Greek mythology and how it tries to keep as accurate as possible with Greek mythology, because it's a fun way to teach kids about Greek mythology. And you actually see children on social media, their parents posting pictures of them enjoying the book. So maybe you're a parent and you want to teach your kids about Greek mythology because learning is fun. This might be a good way to introduce them to the mythology in a fun way. I really do think this is one of the books that you should totally read, whether you be young or you be older, because it's just a cute, enjoyable story. Absolutely adored it. Is there anything I didn't particularly like about the book? I mean, I don't think there's anything I particularly did not like about the book. Overall, I just enjoyed it. The pacing was pretty good. It was funny. It kept you on your toes. The characters were enjoyable, and the characters had very different personalities, so you didn't have the thing where it was basically the same character talking to itself. You know, the characters had distinct personalities. It was fun because we had a strong female lead. We just a really cute story. Overall, adore it. If you haven't checked it out, if you haven't read it, absolutely read it because it'll be worth your time. And that's it. If you read it or you read it and you don't like it, that's okay. You don't have to like the book just because everyone else likes it. Personally, I do like it. I think it's a really good story. And I hope that if you do read it, you'll enjoy it. That's everything, so please just enjoy me finishing up the drawing and have a lovely, lovely day. Goodbye.